Prime Minister admits Trump was right about illegal immigration. Canada's Liberal Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, regrets frequent virtue signaling. After President Trump announced his temporary travel ban, Trudeau released an impassioned plea asking all unlawful immigrants and refugees to flock to Canada. The unlawful immigrants took Trudeau seriously and started crossing into Canada illegally. Realizing his mistake, Prime Minister Trudeau was forced to tell the unlawful immigrants to turn back. Canada is an opening and welcoming society, he explained to reporters in Montreal, but let me be clear, we are also a country of laws. Entering Canada irregularly is not an advantage. There are rigorous immigration and custom rules that will be followed, make no mistake, reports Reuters. Despite the change in policy approach, Trudeau appears reluctant to even utter the term illegal immigration, lest he be branded a right-wing radical by his own supporters. This recent statement is a far cry from Prime Minister Trudeau's early open borders approach to those fleeing persecution, terror, and war. Canadians will welcome you regardless of your faith, he tweeted after President Trump unveiled the temporary travel ban. Diversity is our strength. #Welcome to Canada. Apparently, the young Prime Minister overstated Canada's open border policy, which is not nearly as all-inclusive as he made it sound. In fact, according to Canada's state broadcaster, the CBC, Canada has some of the world's toughest immigration policies. Only 300,000 immigrants are accepted into Canada each year. The Canadian government says they will accept 40,000 refugees this year as part of the 300,000 total immigrants. While this appears generous, Canada relies on ruthless point-based system where only the most qualified applicants are allowed into Canada. Even when applicants are being considered because they face potential harm in their home country, many are turned away for not being in enough danger. Prime Minister Trudeau's statements, while they do not reflect Canadian law, are encouraging thousands of vulnerable immigrants to spend their life savings attempting to make the trip to Canada, only to be turned down at the border. Those who will be allowed into the country find that the process takes years, even more than a decade in some cases. The Canadian Border Patrol reports that Mexican asylum seekers have increased tenfold this year. However, only a tiny fraction of those making the harrowing journey will be allowed to stay. Despite the welcoming rhetoric of the Canadian Prime Minister, the vast majority of these asylum seekers will have wasted their time and money. Additionally, Canadian police arrested over 1,100 supposed refugees illegally crossing into Canada in the first 2 months of this year alone. The number is about half of the people who attempted to illegally cross into Canada in total last year. Canadians are beginning to realize this too. Demonstrations are being held against the asylum seekers in Quebec City, as most of the newest illegal refugees have made their way to Quebec. The uptick in unlawful immigration forced Prime Minister Trudeau to admit that President Trump was right. Despite the ideology of the Canadian Prime Minister, Canada simply cannot accommodate the displaced masses of the world. And there you have it, folks. So now everybody's falling back on Trump's words and the American people's words, actually, because most of us do not want illegal immigration in our country because it will bring the country down to its knees. Let me know what you got.